Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. This is going to be a reading vlog, and I might end up refilming this intro because this is not like the cutest background, but I just wanted to do a little intro and say that this is going to be an attempt at a reading vlog, ideally a week, but it's Tuesday today, so like wrap it up like next Monday or Tuesday, but who knows what will actually happen. It could end up taking me like 2 weeks because I'd like to actually like finish a book, so it might end up being like a full 2 weeks. It's the middle of August right now. Could be the second half of August vlog, who knows? And that's probably why I'll have to come back and refilm an intro to give like actual information. But anyway, I'm currently reading 2 books. One is an audiobook, and I'm listening to the audiobook of Grief is for People by Sloan Crosley, which is basically a memoir. Well, it is a memoir. It's about a very specific time in her life when basically her apartment was broken into and she was robbed, like her jewelry was stolen, and then a month later one of her best friends like died by suicide. So it's these 2 big grief things and like how they get kind of connected in your brain because they happened at the same time. And yeah, it's really interesting so far. I'm probably about halfway through. It's pretty short, and it's really good. It's really interesting how, yeah, if like you think back on your life and like these big grief moments, I feel like so often like deaths are like connected to like weird little minor events or something, you know, like even just like the death of my cat is connected to like the next day we were eating at a restaurant, it was really cold, like, and those events will like always be linked in my head, and it's not even the same as like the violation of a burglary. But yeah, so that is really interesting and I'm enjoying it. I like to often be reading like a non-fiction audiobook at the same time as I'm reading a fiction book. I was listening to the audiobook Sellout by Dan Ozzie, the major label Feeding Frenzy that swept, I think it's like the punk and hardcore scene in the late 90s, mid to late 90s through like 1994 with Green Day to like, I want to say it maybe goes to like 2010, but it started being bands I didn't know, so I would like can't decide if I want to listen to them talk about bands I've never heard of or like listen to those bands and then get back to it, but maybe I'll finish that. I was like 40% of the way through that before I abandoned it. And then the actual physical book that I'm reading is We Play Ourselves by Silverman, and I just started this. I'm literally like 22 pages in, but it's really good, and my girlfriend just read it like a month or 2 ago and really loved it. And it's basically about this playwright from New York where before the start of the book something happened and she like loses her agent and basically runs away to live with her friend in LA, and kind of unraveling what happened. And it's just kind of like a coming of age novel. It's queer, it's feminist, it has to do with the film industry and theater and stuff like that. And it's just, I think, kind of a messy, weird girl book that I don't feel like I've heard anyone talk about. I don't know when it came out. Yeah, in 2022, and I feel like I haven't heard anybody talk about it, so it's always fun to like maybe discover a surprise gem. So yeah, so I'd love to finish this book in this vlog and see what else on my phone I happen to finish while I'm finishing this. So let's get reading. And I have to wear my glasses. I have reading glasses, and these are actually pretty new. I got these in June, maybe May, June, and I really like them. I had like tortoiseshell glasses before, and these were cute, but I feel like these feel a little, I don't know, lighter and cuter. But yeah, check back in with you later when I've read some more. Okay. Okay, I wanted to do a little reading update. You're in kind of a weird location. My cat's here. Oh, she's being so cute. But I don't have any makeup on, my hair is wet. I just wanted to do this now or I wouldn't ever do it. So, since I last talked to the camera, I finished the audiobook of Grief is for People, and I loved it. Because of the nature of it, I didn't like rate it, but I really loved it. I think I'm a decade out from my like suicide loss, so it's like safe to read it. I wouldn't recommend it if you are probably within a year or two. I think you need some space from it, but I thought it was really good. It just, the way it like talks about grief and death in general, I think it's not like, obviously there are elements of it that are more specific to the specific type of death, but I think that it is definitely more universal discussions of grief and the grief of objects and kind of more material things versus the grief of like people. I thought that was all very interesting, and kind of a lot of the magical thinking. It talks a bit about like Joan Didion and the Year of Magical Thinking, which is a book I definitely recommend, one of my favorite books ever. I listened to that in 2020, so it was a lot more like a lot closer to the loss, and like I think a less intense book because it's like a different type of loss for that. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I thought it made me cry at the end. I thought it was really beautiful. I really loved the way that she talked about the person, because I think sometimes you read these books and they turn the deceased person into almost like a myth of a person, which like is valid, like if that's how you view them, if that comforts you to kind of only remember their good qualities. But I personally find it so much more healing to mourn the fullness of people. Yeah, and then I was just like, really? AC just kicked on. Sorry if that's loud. I was just like, I kind of want to reread A Series of Unfortunate Events as an adult. I watched the show, that like the Netflix show that came out a while ago, and I really enjoyed it. And I found an audiobook that's like the full cast audiobook, I think, with that cast. And so I listened to The Bad Beginning and I loved it. It's so easy. It's like literally, I listened to it on like 1.5 speed and got through it. It's like 2 hours. So that's sometimes nice, you know, a little like, I've read it before. I read it when I was a kid, when they came out. Like I was obsessed. So I kind of know what was happening. I could do it, listen to it while I was doing other things like showering, cooking, etc. So that was really fun, and I really enjoyed it. It's just nice, especially like after reading a really, like the last audiobook I listened to being like very heavy, to like have something fun. So yeah, but I think about 30% of the way through this. I really want to focus on reading this a bit more. I've had a weird week with that, but we play ourselves, and around the 25% mark I got that feeling, you know, sometimes when you get that feeling and you're just like, this is gonna be a favorite. I'm not saying that like, oh, necessarily it's gonna be 5 stars, best book of the year, but I would be surprised if it wasn't, you know? Like, I feel like the last time I read a book and I was like, this is going to be one of my favorite books of the year, was Notes on an Execution, and it kind of happened around like the 30% mark where I was just like, this is really doing it for me. So it's really good, and it is a little bit dual timeline, but it's done in a way that's not like alternating chapters, and it's done in a way where it doesn't feel like the narrator is like hiding things from you, which sometimes is a problem with dual timelines and thrillers, because they're both leading up to like a big twist. And in this, and my girlfriend read it before me, and she was like, there is a twist, and kind of like you find out what happened, what the catalyst to her moving from New York to LA was, but she's like, it's not really what you expect, and it doesn't feel like the big, like they're holding back this twist kind of twist. It's just an explanation. But yeah, there's a very interesting plot happening with her out in LA, and the characters are all really interesting, and I'm really enjoying it. So I'm going to try, I'd love to finish this in August, and since August is over on Saturday, don't know how that happened. Gotta really get serious about reading it. But yeah, that's just this little update, and I wanted to share it, and I can show you my cats again. Ignore like this mess. We're in the process of like redoing our gallery wall, so there's like pictures behind us, and but this is Romy. She's very grumpy because she doesn't like when things change around her, and me sitting on the floor was really upsetting. And then that's Theo, who is scared of everything and a bit of a hater, but she's so beautiful. She's our like newer cat, and yeah, she is an angel, but she's so scared of everything. So I'm gonna leave them alone before they start having meltdowns. They're two very high-strung girls. So hopefully next time I update you, I'll be at least 50% through that other book, if not done with it, and I can just tell you how incredible it is. And I think I will end this vlog on September 2nd or 3rd, because I'm gonna be getting a package of books, and I will do like a haul. So this is my last update on We Play Ourselves by Jen Silverman. I finished this yesterday morning, I believe. Yeah. And I probably included the clip, but we'll see, we'll see. I'd cried through like the entire last like 2 chapters. It is so good. So it basically follows, I think I've briefly mentioned what it's about, but it follows this girl Cass, this woman, she's 33, who like she's a playwright in New York, and something happened and basically her career blew up. She like screwed up her whole career with something, and she ends up going to LA to stay with one of her best friends and his boyfriend. Like while the whole thing blows over, you think like, oh okay, so this is kind of a redemption arc storyline, or like she's gonna find success out here, and she gets involved with the woman next door to her boyfriend's, her friend's boyfriend, their house, is like a filmmaker, and she's making like a documentary style, semi real, semi fake, you know, like when they do those like based on a true, it's like a documentary, but like they make them like refilm things because they missed that conversation, like that kind of vibe or whatever is like how it's sort of presented. And with these like teen girls who are in like a fight club, and so she starts getting involved in that, and you read the book and you're like, oh, like so there's gonna be some sort of redemption arc, or she's gonna get success here or something. You're like, I don't know exactly what's going on. It's not really a dual timeline, but you're also getting kind of like flashbacks to what did happen to her in New York with her play, and they all kind of intertwine and interweave, and her lives kind of like her New York life and her LA life, the compare and the contrast and how they interweave mingle and all of that stuff, and her relationships with all these people. And it's just really interesting. And I think that I really, because the like tagline on the back is America loves a comeback story, so you think that that's going to be like the point of it, but I think that it's definitely one of those more like messy coming of age stories almost, which I really like as someone like in her 30s. That kind of a coming of age story can involve a character in her 30s, because yeah, I think it's only been in the last couple of years that I've figured my shit out. So not everybody has their life together by 30. So I really enjoyed that, and I thought it was just really beautiful and really relatable if you're feeling, especially if you're in your late 20s, early 30s, late 30s, like feeling a little lost, or a little bit like, what even is success? What am I gonna do to be a success? What do I want to be? Who am I? Like, and do I even want success, or do I have to become someone else to get success? It's just all these questions around kind of the growing up that happens in your 30s when you see people your age or younger who are doing incredible things, and you're like, am I behind? Am I a failure? And I thought that was really good, and I really related and sympathized with the main character. And it's absolutely insane. The end of it is kind of unhinged. I wouldn't say that it's open-ended emotionally, but like plot-wise it's kind of open-ended, but like the plot is secondary to the character. It's definitely like a character-driven thing. It's incredible. I gave it 5 stars. I cried so much, and I definitely recommend it if you're into kind of those messy women, unhinged women kind of things. But she's definitely more on like the hinged side of unhinged women. Like, and yeah, if you're looking for like an adult coming of age story. Like the glare on my glasses is so crazy, but I'm so tired that I feel like I need them to like hide what's going on. Now I'm gonna do a little book haul. I found like an old Barnes & Noble gift card, and it's like let's place an order of free books. So we grabbed a couple books. I think we got like 7. I think there's 7 or 8. I think one is a pre-order. I pre-ordered the Sally Rooney, but that doesn't come out until like next week or something. So yeah, and then this Wandering Stars by Tommy Orange, my mom bought for me, and it's like a prequel and sequel, or maybe just a prequel, but to There, which I read in 2020, I think it was, and I absolutely loved it. So very excited to have this now, and definitely going to be reading that this fall. Then my little book haul. First, I'll start with the books that are not mine, but I'll probably end up reading them. The Palimpsest. It's by Catherine M. Valenti, who wrote Comfort Me with Apples, which I read 2 years ago, I think, and I really, really loved that. So that's great, and my girlfriend also really loved it. She weaves the lyrically erotic spell of a place where the grotesque and the beautiful reside, and the passport to our most secret fantasies begins with a stranger's kiss. Between life and death, dreaming and waking, at the train stop beyond the end of the world is the city of Palimpsest. To get there is a miracle, a mystery, a gift, and a curse, a voyage permitted only to those who've always believed there's another world than the one that meets the eye. Those fated to make the passage are marked forever by a map of that wondrous city tattooed on their flesh after a single orgasmic night. So it follows, I guess, some characters who do that, and it sounds fun, and she's a beautiful writer, so I'm sure it's gonna be incredible. And then just got Freshwater by Kweke Emeze, and I read You Made a Fool of Death with Your Beauty by them, and loved it. So I know that this is gonna be, I started reading Pet, and like it scared me too much, and it's like a middle grade or young adult book or something, so that was embarrassing. But one of the most startling and highly acclaimed debuts of recent years, and to be adapted for television by FX, Freshwater tells the story of Ada, an unusual child who is a source of deep concern to her southern Nigerian family. Young Ada is troubled, prone to violent fits. Born with one foot in the other side, she begins to develop separate selves within her as she grows into adulthood. And when she travels to America for college, a traumatic event on campus crystallizes the selves into something powerful and potentially dangerous, making Ada fade into the background of her own mind as these alters, now protective, now hedonistic, move into control. That sounds very interesting. The Last Tale of the Flower Bride by Roshni Chakshi, which I don't really know plot-wise really what this is about, and I've read a chapter today and it's gorgeous. Her writing is incredible, but it's, I think, like a take on the Bluebeard story. So it follows like a marriage between the flower bride and the bridegroom, and I think she has a mysterious past, and I believe it also has like alternating chapters that go into her past, and I think like a really strange, possibly queer friendship from her past. So, you know, it's like a gothic kind of thing that I thought would be like perfect for autumn. Another thing that I think is autumnal is Lady Macbeth by Ava Reid, who I've never actually read any Ava Reid, but a lot of her books sound really good. Lady knows the stories, how her eyes induce madness in men. The lady knows she'll be wed to the Scottish brute who does not leave his warrior ways behind when he comes to the marriage bed. The lady knows his hostile, suspicious court will be a game of strategy, requiring all of her wiles and hidden witchcraft to survive. But the lady does not know that her husband has occult secrets of his own. She does not know that prophecy girds him like armor. She does not know that her magic is greater and more dangerous, and that it will threaten the order of the world. She does not know this yet. She will. So it's like a Lady Macbeth Shakespeare retelling. I love Macbeth. I had to study it a million times in school, so I'm excited. Anything that makes her even more badass than she already is great. The last kind of like fantasy I got is This Ravenous Fate by Haley Dennings, and she is a booktuber. I subscribed to her and everything, and she talked about this, and it always sounded really interesting. It's 1926, and reapers are growing stronger everywhere. Created centuries ago by cruel medical experiments, these once human vampires are driven to attack without mercy. Those who protect the city from them hold more power than even the organized criminals who run the nightclubs. It's basically about two young women. I think one is like a vampire and one is like not a vampire. And they had like a toxic homoerotic friendship breakup, and now have to come together in 1926, and it sounds really interesting. And everything I've heard about it so far has been really good, so I'm excited. I know it's like a series, so I might wait to read it until closer to the publication date, the follow-up. But yeah, and it was blurred by Ava Reid, so that's exciting. Also got The Mysterious Case of the Alberton Angels by Janice Hallett. I just read The Appeal by Janice Hallett and really liked it, and I like a little like mixed media thing. It's a cult who brainwashed a teenage girl into believing her baby was the Antichrist. When the girl came to her senses and called the police, the angels committed suicide, and the mother and baby then disappeared. So it follows that, I guess, and sounds really fun and interesting. And I feel like the mixed media thing's really easy to read quickly, and thrillers are also like well, not really a thriller, but like mysteries are like a good fall spooky season kind of thing. And then finally, Shark Heart, a love story by Emily Habeck, which I don't really know much about the plot, and I don't want to read a ton of it, but I've heard really, really good things. It's basically, in this world, some people like turn into animals, or maybe just sharks, and it follows like this guy who's turning into a shark, and like, or maybe this couple, one of them's turning into a shark, and yeah. And I think I heard that is like half of it, and then the second half is something else related, obviously, but I don't know. I just heard it's incredible, and then I was like, I don't know if I want it, but then I saw the cover, and the cover is purple. The paperback, the like hardcover was like blue, which is like pretty, but purple is everything, so I had to get it. Isn't that gorgeous? But yeah, so I'll probably come back to do some sort of wrap up. I don't think I'll finish The Last Tale of the Flower Bride before I decide to like wrap this vlog up, but I'll definitely like pop back in like with makeup and a cute little outfit on to like wrap the vlog up and like do an in conclusion, and this is what I read in this vlog, which is like, I guess like 3 books, maybe 4, I don't remember. We'll see. I have to review the footage and see, and then I'm also gonna film an unhaul, so I'm excited for that. Haul and unhaul, it's the circle of books. Here I am doing like a conclusion to this vlog, because otherwise there would be no introduction, no conclusion, and it would just end, and we need to review what I actually read in this, because I had grand plans of reading a bunch of books in like 2 weeks, and I started this like around August 20th, and it's now like September 10th, and I'm finishing it. But let's see, what did I read in this vlog? And I will give you like my ratings. I talked about them. I've edited all this stuff, so I know what I've actually said and what I didn't. So hopefully this won't be overly repetitive. Okay, so the first book I read was Grief is for People by Sloan Crosley. I listened to the audiobook of that, and it's basically just a nonfiction memoir type thing on, well, grief, it's in the title, but on one of her best friends' suicides and death and all of that, and linked to a robbery that she dealt with around the same time. And I really loved that, and I thought it was a really good and moving and thought-provoking, and it made me cry. It was just a really good exploration of the topic, and there's not a lot of memoirs on like losing someone to suicide, so it's nice to find that, because it's a very kind of isolating loss sometimes, because it's hard for people to talk about. Like, death is hard to talk about in general, and then a death that is kind of stigmatized like that is even harder. So I really enjoyed it. I don't usually rate memoirs unless they're like 5 stars, but I really enjoyed it, and I definitely recommend it if you're interested in memoirs on grief, or just grief in general, or if you have lost someone to suicide, or just in general. Just thought it was interesting, just on death and loss in general. And then I think the next book I technically finished was, I started reading, listening to the audiobook of Series of Unfortunate Events, and I listened to The Bad Beginning, which I'd read when I was a kid, so it was a reread technically. I mean, I reread it multiple times when I was still a kid, and I watched the Netflix show when that came out and loved it. And the first book is like a full cast thing, so I love that. I don't really rate rereads either, because I'm like, I loved it, but like I read it for the first time when I was like 10. So when I was 10, it was such a 5-star, and that's really all that matters. Like, middle grade books aren't for me, so it's just like a nostalgia thing. Yeah, and I also read the Reptile Room by Lemony Snicket, the second book in the thing, and loved that. I always think I liked that one like more than the first one as a kid. So, and that was narrated by what's his face, Tim Curry, and that was so good. And I went to start the third one, and it had like a new narrator, so I don't know if I'm gonna continue with that, but it was just fun, nostalgic. Sometimes I feel like sometimes when you're in a reading slump, I was in a bit of a like, I don't know what else to read kind of moment, it's fun to reread something. I'm trying to like let myself do that. I've been so opposed to rereading because there's so many new books, but I think it's good sometimes for your brain to reread something that you loved. And then I read the star of this vlog, We Play Ourselves by Silverman, and gave this 5 stars. I would say at this point in the year. It's my favorite book of the year. When I was doing the mid-year freakout tag, I really struggled to think of what my favorite book of the year is. And thankfully, when I get to the end of the year, I won't struggle with that, because right now it's this. And I obviously always hope I read better books, you know, but I can't imagine. This was just so perfectly what I needed at this time. The main character is 33, I'm 35. She's kind of lost. I'm starting to find myself a little less lost than I was when I was even 33. And I loved that it's kind of like a weird girl coming of age book for women in their 30s that emotionally and plot-wise kind of goes in a different direction than you expect, and ends up, you think kind of it's gonna be like, here's all the ways to be successful, and here's some, like a comeback kid kind of story. And it's just so much more than that, and in some ways about just learning to like kind of accept who you are, and that maybe not every moment in your life needs a comeback. So I really love that, because I've had some moments where I'm like, I gotta come back from this, and like, maybe I don't, maybe I just gotta move on to the next thing, you know? I don't have to prove myself as like, that wasn't that big of a deal because look at me now. You can just move on to the next thing. So yeah, I really loved it, and I definitely recommend it to people who are kind of between like late 20s to late 30s and looking for kind of a coming of age thing. It's queer, it's just interesting. She's not the most likable character. There's not a ton of plot, but I really liked it, and it's pretty short. So, I mean, even if you don't love it, you didn't waste that much time. And yeah, and that, oh, and I started The Last Tale of the Flower Bride. I'm only a chapter into that, but that's like my next physical book. And I started and finished very quickly, because I was sucked in, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie, which is a Poirot book. I think it's like the 3rd or 4th, and I loved it. The twist like blew my mind. So I definitely recommend that one as like a good place to start with some Agatha Christie. But yeah, I'm trying to read them like a little bit more in chronological order right now, because I think there's something to be said for that. So yeah, so those are the books that I read in this vlog. Didn't show a lot of most of them being read, because it just doesn't occur to me to like film while I'm reading an audiobook. I'm usually cooking dinner and busy, and yeah, but that was that. So I guess it's not really a vlog. It's a vlog. It's like a summary of me reading in different days and different areas of my apartment. So it's a vlog, and you got to see my cats, so cats are a vlog. Yeah, so let me know if you have read any of those, and yeah, so thank you so much for watching. Check out this book if it sounds like something you'd be into, and each vlog will hopefully get better, or I'll never do another vlog again because I didn't like this, you know, who knows.